Hello, I am Bearded Badger, and if you've watched any of my other content on any platform, you will know that I am an Irish storyteller. I love folklore, mythology, storytelling, books. I fucking love sticks. And what I want to do with this video is I want to cover, in very kind of basic terms, I'm going to run through the 7 mythological invasions of Ireland. We're not going to touch on times when people actually came and stole our land. That's a different tone. So I'm doing this as a storyteller. I'm covering mythological invasions of Ireland. So let's move back to a time before Ireland was inhabited, a beautiful, lush, green land. And the first people that we see making their way to Ireland was Cesar. Now, in some versions of this, in like the post-Christian times, we see that Cesar is depicted as being essentially the granddaughter of Moses. She knows that the great flood is coming, and there's only 2 people going on and 2 of each animals, but she wants to save the women of her land. So what she does is she gets in with the women with the help of her father, her husband, and her teacher, who was essentially a druid who gave her the warning. They started building these great ships. And on her ship, there was 49 women and those 3 men, husband, father, and the teacher. And that was the only ship that actually made it to Ireland. The rest of the ships were destroyed. Now, why she wanted to come to Ireland is that in the Christian version of this, because there was no people on the island of Ireland, therefore there was no sin, and she believed that it would be spared. So they arrive in Ireland, and when the 3 men realize that it's going to be down to them to re-establish the population, 2 of the men take a little jump off a cliff, essentially, and the only one who's left is Cesar's husband. And of course, there's not much re-establishing of the population in that case. Cesar dies along with a lot of the other people, not her husband though. I've actually been to Cesar's tomb. I went there and walked up that mountain and saw that cairn. But her husband survives by turning himself into a salmon, and therefore the flood is not an issue for him. And Ireland, after the Great Flood, is left uninhabited for the next 300 years until we see the arrival of the Partholonians, the people of Partholon. And they are a very civilized people. They arrive in Ireland, they build walls and stone structures, they domesticate animals, they establish farming. But they've arrived in Ireland, and a people born of the sea notice their arrival and move onto the land. And that was the Fomorians, who we'll get to in a moment. But essentially, the Partholonians get wiped out by a plague. And the Fomorians take over the land. Now, the Fomorians are never depicted well in Irish mythology. They are seen as kind of monsters, like deformed giants, some described as having like the upper half of animals, like the head of a goat and the body of a man. And they are ruthless, mean people. Just imagine them as the bad guys. And they're doing pretty well in Ireland. And then we see the arrival of the people of Nemid, the Numidians, and they also set sail with a lot of ships. They had 40 ships. And again, the only ship that makes it is Nemid's ship and Nemid's people on that one ship. The seas around Ireland are treacherous, might I add. But they arrive in Ireland, they establish themselves until they are faced with the Fomorians. And then they essentially run away, which seems rather uneventful and short-lived, but it does become important later on. So the later on, by the way, is now. It's not that much further on, because generations later we see the next people to arrive are the Fir Bolg, and they are said to be the descendants of the Numidians, maybe some of the people who hadn't taken the journey, but they come to Ireland, and they're a civilized people, all right. They're always painted, well, they're usually painted as kind of bad guys as well, but they are civilized and they divide Ireland up. Now, they divide Ireland in 5. And in Ireland, in modern days, we know we have our 4 provinces, which are Ulster, Munster, Leinster, and Connacht. Well, there was a 5th province known as Mid, which is where Meath is today, and it was a central part of Ireland, and it was like a hub of leadership. So they established those kind of 5 provinces, and everything was going well for them until the next invasion, which is the 6th invasion, and it is the arrival of the Tuatha Dé Danann. Now, the Tuatha Dé Danann are held up as being the old gods of Ireland, a very powerful, magical, and yet at the same time very human people. But they're always held up as the good guys. Never seems to be perfect, a mixed bag. Like I said, very human in that regard, but they're often seen as the heroes. And they arrive in Ireland after the Fir Bolg, and they have a great fight. And there is massive losses on both sides, but essentially the Fir Bolg are beaten, and they leave Ireland, and then it's the Tuatha Dé Danann. Now, it's the Tuatha Dé Danann, but still kicking around, going between land and sea of the Fomorians, so there isn't really peace. And the relationship between the Tuatha Dé Danann and the Fomorians is very, very complicated, and I will not be going into it in this video. It is intermarriage between the two peoples. It gets very complicated, but skipping forward to the end, we see the defeat of Balor of the Evil Eye, one of these hideous Fomorians, is beaten by the beautiful Lugh. Aren't the good guys always gorgeous and the bad guys always unattractive monsters? That's how it's sold to us anyway. But yeah, Lugh defeated Balor of the Evil Eye, and then the Fomorians are banished and they leave as well. And everything is great in Ireland, that we have these wonderful gods and warriors and magic practitioners, you know. But as I said, that was invasion number 6, and I said at the start we were going to do 7 invasions. And the 7th and final mythological invasion of Ireland was the coming of the Milesians. These are the people of Mil Ispan, which translates to the soldier of Spain. So the Milesians were people who came from northern Spain. The modern day people of Ireland are said to be the descendants of those people. And when they noticed Ireland, when Ireland kind of came up on their radar, they were like, oh, we want to have a bit of this. Again, there was some killing, there was some dispute, but when they tried to come in force to take over the land of Ireland, they couldn't even get onto the land. They were held back by magic, and it was only on their 3rd attempt did they manage to get through the waves and land in Ireland. And again, a great battle ensued, a loss on both sides, and eventually, while the Milesians won, they struck a deal. They were a fairly honourable people, and the idea was that Ireland would be divided in half. Half for the Milesians, half for the Tuatha Dé Danann. But the Tuatha Dé Danann didn't realise that the Milesians meant the bottom half. The Milesians took everything above the land, and the Tuatha Dé Danann were driven into the ground. And we see all across Ireland these places that are named with these ancient sites that are seen as doorways through into that other world. But in that, and we did it in under 10 minutes, we managed to cover the 7 mythological invasions of Ireland. And I hope I didn't talk too fast. I went through it like that because I'm just kind of into it, and I thought it was about time I did a video on it. So if you have any questions, or if you want any suggested reading or anything like that, just leave a comment below, like and subscribe. Bye.